Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. Welcome back to the Reader's channel. The first one starts like this. For years, solar energy was one of the things that I liked but was skeptical about. All those phone calls about getting solar panels on my house got me thinking, and I eventually caved in and had somebody come over and give me an estimate. With the amount of sun where I live, I would pretty much get all the power I could ever need. Costing less than what I was currently paying and also being clean energy made it an easy choice for me. This story is not meant to convince you to get any of them, I just wanted to include a little about how and why I got the panels installed onto my house. Now, the biggest complaint I hear from people about solar panels is that they ruin the look of the house they are put on. Now, personally, I don't care much for how my house looks or even how I usually look myself. Because of that, I cannot say one way or another about it, but to me, as long as they work, the way they make my house look does not bother me. What matters even less to me is how it makes other homes look. I would not let my house become a dump or my yard look like it has not ever been maintained, but other than that, I don't really care. If my house has chipped paint or could use a new window shutter, that is not something that bothers me. Who it does bother though is the president of the HOA, and this is not my first go around with the guy. He wants all the houses in the neighborhood to not only look good, but to match in a way. Only certain colors of doors and paint for the houses are allowed. Mailboxes have to be a certain way, and even the house numbers have rules that go with it. If anything is even slightly askew, you can be sure to get a knock at the door and this guy complaining and sending you a fine for it. This is why before I got my solar panels installed, I went through the HOA bylaws myself to double check that there wouldn't be any kind of problem. Nothing about solar panels was in the HOA bylaws at all, so I figured I was in the clear and got them. It did not take more than a couple of days for the HOA president to be ringing my doorbell. Me, hello? HOA president, hey there neighbor. I noticed those things you put on your roof and I'm gonna have to ask you to remove them. Me, I checked the bylaws before putting them up. There is nothing saying I cannot have solar panels. HOA president, take a minute to look around though. None of the other houses have them, so yours sticks out like a sore thumb. Solar panels are not referred to specifically, but I think we can agree they fall under property clutter, which is not allowed. Me, I am not removing them. The only thing we both know is your excuse for getting rid of them sucks. HOA president, you're not gonna make the entire block have bad property values because your roof looks so ugly now. I insist that you remove them. I refused again and closed the door in his face. If he wanted to come after me with a fine, I would take it to court and have a judge tell him that he cannot dictate my house and the fact that I wanted solar panels on my roof. He did not go with his usual course of action and instead took it upon himself to personally remove them. What he did was, he came to my house with a shotgun and started opening fire on my roof in the middle of the night. I heard the bangs and woke up terrified that I was under attack and possibly I was gonna die. I went to the window and peeked out to see him there shooting at my roof. I could not go outside due to the fear of being shot, so I could only wait it out until he left. In the morning, I looked over the damage and saw that the panels were basically destroyed. Huge chunks broken off and fell to my lawn while others seemed to shatter into small pieces. One thing was for sure, and that was my house could not be powered with them anymore. I was outraged that he pulled a stunt like that just because I would not bend to his will. Making it even worse, the danger of a stray bullet potentially going through a window and hitting me. It did not take me longer than 5 minutes to decide that I was gonna sue this guy for everything he had. I sued the HOA technically and had to wait a long time until we could appear before a judge to talk about what happened. I had a lawyer and pictures getting taken the very same day I discovered the damages that this one man caused. I also had a camera on my property, but it only managed to catch the beginning of this assault on my roof. I guess he noticed it and shot it, thinking that the footage would be destroyed, but it backs up automatically to my phone. After a few months of waiting, we are finally set to go and see the judge. The HOA president goes first and claims that the solar panels were not allowed on my property due to HOA bylaws. Of course, he dismisses any knowledge or involvement of their destruction. Their main side is, as the HOA, they don't have to pay or get me justice because the damaged part of my home was not allowed to exist anyway. Then he made some fake apology how he was sorry, but the matter was out of his hands and I should take it up with somebody else. even going as far as to say maybe the people installing them did a bad job and they just slid off my roof and broke. Hearing somebody lie and not getting to butt in is hard for me, and I was basically biting my tongue the entire fake story he told. Then it was my side's turn. I talked about waking up that night to the sound of gunfire and seeing him outside my window with a shotgun. I forgot to mention that I called the police the next day because I was in too much shock to think clearly at that moment. I was scared for my life. Either way, when the police came the next day, I pressed charges. Unfortunately though, where I am from, the police is incredibly useless. Anyway, in court I did show the evidence of the destroyed panels and how the damage doesn't make sense for things to just slide off my roof and end up with bullet holes and shell casings. Then I showed the partial video, which you can tell the HOA president did not expect to exist anymore, and his face clear as day in it. This was the main thing that caused the case to go in my favor instead of his. Finally, the HOA bylaws themselves were read over, and a judge agreed that nothing in there would make having solar panels a problem. So then, the HOA was forced to pay to replace my solar panels, which was gonna cost them a pretty penny. As for the president himself, they were gonna look into his gun ownership and charge him for firing illegally and destroying my property. Even if you own a gun, that doesn't mean that you can shoot wherever you want and whenever you want. The arrest was more than enough for him to lose his position as HOA president, and the weird rules he was making could finally stop. Homeowners in the neighborhood could have a little freedom of creativity back when it came to their homes. I did get my solar panels back on the house, and the entire case drew attention from people. One side effect of the entire thing was people asking me how I like my panels and if I recommend them. I'm a huge fan of irony, and more people became interested in potentially getting solar panels, which was the best irony in my opinion. And the next one is titled, "Idiots Trespassed and Got What They Deserved." And by the way, dear viewers, if someone ever trespassed on your property, please let us know in the comments what you did with these people. How did you get rid of them? Let us know in the comments. I own some rural, undeveloped acreage that we plan to build on someday, and in the meantime we would camp or drive out and spend the day target shooting. The property is well posted with no trespassing and no hunting signs. The main access is gated with an 8-foot metal gate. There are berms, ditches, jersey barriers and locks at any point along the 10-mile stretch of road along where anyone would even consider accessing the property. The neighboring properties have all done the same, so basically there is no easy access on a 30-mile length. Even with all that, people still cut the locks, move the barriers and fill in the ditches to access the property on their quads and dirt bikes. Last weekend, a couple friends and I decided to go out there and do some short-range target shooting, maybe 25 yards. We are maybe 2 miles in the woods and suddenly a guy and his 8 to 10-year-old son come up behind us on dirt bikes, and the dude goes off, yelling at us about shooting and endangering his young child. Remember, we are shooting short-range targets we have set up against a hillside, so no errant bullets whizzing around, and it is my property after all that is posted. I try to explain that he is actually trespassing when he says, "Dude, shut up and let the man handle this." My male friend says it is her property, you need to talk to her, so once again I try to explain to him that he is trespassing, and he tells me to F off and says he is calling the sheriff because we are shooting and we need to stop what we are doing and follow him out to the road to meet the sheriff because the property is gated. No kidding, douchebag, I gated it. I said we would not leave but go ahead and call, so he walked away and called. While he did that, I also called and told the sheriff's department the gate was unlocked and they could drive in, or if they wanted to, call me when they get close. They said it would be about an hour and they would come to the site. Now, we had probably a dozen rounds already loaded in 3 handguns, so we figured, what the hell, told the dad we were gonna target shoot, and of course he flipped his and called the sheriff again. We fired them and then made sure all the guns were on the table open so the sheriff could see they were empty, and sat there talking amongst ourselves while a-hole stood with his son. The sheriff shows up and the guy explains how he and his son right there all the time, describes how he cut some locks and used a small Kubota to make an entrance so they could get in. Then shows what direction he came from when he rode up and discovered those dangerous shooters. The officer just let him talk and writes it all down, then he comes over to us and I show him my ID and my phone where I have pulled up the tax records to show that I'm the property owner and this fine gentleman does not have my permission to be on the property. The officer goes back over to the man to get some more information for this report, asks if those are the dirt bikes they were riding. The guy proudly says yes. Then the officer asks where the helmets are. The guy says he doesn't need them on private property. The officer then asks if the bike's registrations are current. Again, guy says they don't need to be on private property. So the officer asks who owns the property, and that's when the guy realizes things are not gonna go his way. So far, his a-hole tax has cost him a ticket for no helmet and a double amount ticket for the kid not wearing one, and 2 tickets for unregistered bikes, 2 trespassing charges, a vandalism charge for the work he bragged about to access the property, and he had to push both bikes the 2 miles out to the road and then walk another 3 miles to his truck. Plus, of course, whatever the cost is to repair the damage he did making the access and damages for the trail system he created. If he had not been an a-hole, I would have just told him he could not ride there and then blocked his access. As for our supposedly illegal shooting, the sheriff complimented me on my grouping, which was nice. And the next one is titled, "Dumb Customer Gets What He Deserves." So I work at a famous chicken chain that is known for our politeness. And dear viewers, if you are from the US and you know which kind of chain OP is talking about, then please let us know in the comments. Anyway, the story starts like this. So at my store we offer free meals to police officers in uniform who eat in the restaurant. My coworker greeted this customer and asked for his order. He promptly showed what an a-hole he was by berating her for having to wait in line for all of 2 minutes. He did it so loudly that 3 officers eating lunch heard him. He used very foul language and took 4 minutes to do so before placing his order. Strike 1 for him. He next showed what a douchebag he was by camping out in a booth and making a mess that I only expect from large families with multiple small children. This included throwing his trash on the floor in plain view of the officers. Strike 2. He then went to his car and started throwing what seemed like an ocean of old fast food wrappers and cigarette butts out of his car into the parking lot. That was strike 3 for him, as this was littering. All 3 officers went out and made him clean up his mess and wrote him a ticket. Where I live, littering carries a $500 fine, and if he contested it, the judge could tack on up to 60 hours of community service. So finally, this guy ended up paying $508 for his lunch. And the next one is titled, "Was this really your spot?" I work from home full-time and rarely drive unless I am grocery shopping or out for an appointment. In my complex there are non-reserved spots and reserved spots in the underground garage, all of which are not assigned. As long as you have a reserved sticker on your vehicle, any of the reserved spots, which are all labeled reserved, are fair game. I have a non-reserved sticker because it is $40 cheaper than the reserved pass. So anyway, I was coming back from an appointment and turned into my neighbor's reserved spot so that I could back my car into the open non-reserved spot behind me. Lo and behold, male Karen in his rusty 2007 RAV4 starts honking at me for being in his spot, telling me that I cannot park there because I don't have a reserved sticker. I told him I was only backing out. I probably should have let it go, but his Karen-ness pissed me off so much. As I was getting on the elevator, I quickly realized he only wanted to park there because it was right next to the elevator. A light bulb went off in my head and I made my way to the rental office, it's in the same building, and asked to upgrade my parking pass. It is an extra $40 I'll be shelling out, but it's worth the petty revenge. I am waiting for him to leave for work tomorrow, so I can move my car into his spot and leave it there for God knows how long. There are perks to being fully remote. The next one is titled, "Getting Revenge with Shifts." During my last few high school years and early university years, I worked part-time in a supermarket at the checkout department. Of course, you would see your fair share of Karens and Richards and Kevins and entitled parents, entitled kids, etc. But no one in that store was more infuriating to deal with than the most recently hired supervisor. She was the kind of supervisor that would deny POT if you did not give 4 weeks notice, despite all of our contracts stating that we only needed to give 2 weeks notice. But then when you tried to give 4 weeks notice, she would say, "It was too long ago, I don't remember you asking me." At the time of this story, I had worked at this store for quite a few years, and every Christmas season I would say the same things to the supervisor. "I don't have any plans, I'm not leaving town, so if you need me for extra shifts, just put me down whenever you need me, just as long as I finished by 9:30 p.m. They knew that I would not care if it was any day of the week, just a 4-hour shift or 11-hour shift. I was completely free with no plans, totally flexible and able to work mostly whenever. My only condition was that I had to be done by 9:30 p.m. This was because I had not yet gotten my full driver's license and it was illegal for me to drive by myself without some kind of supervisor between the hours of 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. The store was open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m, so out of those 14 hours I could not work 0.5 hours of them. It was a good system between and led to me doing a lot of extra shifts, with a lot of them being last minute. However, early November the new supervisor asked me about my December and January availability and I said the same old song. You can put me down for extra shifts as much as you like, whenever, for any day, as long as I am done by 9:30 p.m. She asked, why 9:30 p.m? And then I explained to her about my driver's license. She just nodded and walked away. Then mid-November rolls around and the December schedule was released. I was given plenty of extra shifts as per usual, but you might have seen this one coming. I was scheduled for 6 days a week, which would have been all good with me, except for the fact that 5 of them ended at 10 p.m. I found the supervisor as soon as I saw the schedule and reiterated that I cannot work past 9:30 p.m. The conversation was something like this: Supervisor, but you can still work until 10 p.m. Me, I cannot, or else I will be driving illegally and I'm not gonna do that. Supervisor, yes, but there are plenty other ways you can get yourself home. Me, like what? SV, have your family pick you up. No, they are in and out of town on business. SV, you can take the bus. Me, no, it arrives every hour, 10 to the hour. I'm not working until 10 and then waiting outside in the dark alone until 10:50 p.m. I was 19 female at the time. Supervisor, what about Uber? Me, I'm not working all day just to spend it all on an Uber to get home. Well then, you will need to find someone to fill in those shifts for you. Nope, according to my contract I don't. And then she just walks away. I am left there speechless. Later that same shift, when she was the only supervisor around, she completely left me out to dry with a horrid customer who could not use the self-service checkouts to save his life and took it all out on me. We have all seen horrible people like that, but this guy in particular was so bad. Co-workers, even those from different departments, kept coming up to me asking if I was okay after dealing with that guy. Not my supervisor though. After I got home that day, I was done. I sent out CV after CV on job websites. My mentality was, if I'm gonna get paid minimum wage, I might as well do it somewhere better. Within a few days, I had a retail store asking me to come in for an interview. Within the next week, I had that new job lined up and ready to go. So I went back to the supermarket on my next shift and handed my 2 weeks notice. All my other supervisors were gutted that I was leaving. I'm not saying I'm some star employee, but I was always keen on extra shifts, barely took sick leave, was so chill and willing to do a lot of the side tasks that no one else wants to do. For example, collect the shopping carts in the rain or empty the rubbish bins, and I just knew a lot of stuff about the checkout in general. Also, I was gutted I would not be working with them anymore, but working with that one bad supervisor hurt more than working without others. The day I handed in my notice, the bad supervisor was not working. I did not see her until a few days later, when she stopped me near the back of the store around a few other co-workers. I'm guessing that she was not too happy that she lost the de facto full-timer just before the Christmas rush. She seemed a bit flustered but still had that fake smile of hers. Supervisor, so I heard you're leaving soon. Me cheerfully, yep, in just under 2 weeks. Supervisor, but you've worked here for quite some time. Any particular reason why you're leaving so quickly? Me, with the biggest grin I've ever had on my face, I already told you why. I'm not working those 10 p.m. shifts. It was beautiful. Within a split second of me saying that, her smile dropped and she just stared at me speechless. This time it was my turn to just walk away. You don't quit bad jobs, you quit bad management. A Reddit comment I saw a few years ago. And yeah, dear viewers, if you have ever quit a job just because of bad management, then please let us know in the comments, because I would love to hear about your story. Either way, for now we have reached the end of the video. As you probably know, this is still a quite new channel and I would very much appreciate if you could subscribe and maybe even like the video, because that would help us tremendously. We will upload daily videos, so please keep an eye on this channel. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you again tomorrow.